Hey guys, Buffing Gaming back today, bringing you a video for our weapon conversion series, and today we're going to be turning the AK-47 into the AK-74M, or the modernized AK-74. So I'll show you how to build this blueprint. We'll check out the recoil in-game, and then see how it handles in a live multiplayer game for a realism mosh pit. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So back out and we'll see the final design here. This is our AK-74M, or the modernized AK-74, utilizing the Midwest Industries M-Lock handguard on this weapon. So let's go ahead and back out first. We're going to go to the armory here so you can see the blueprint that I'm going to be using. Now, I'm going to be using the Warsaw blueprint here. So I'll link the video down below to the bundle that you need to get this blueprint. This is definitely my favorite AK-47 blueprint in the game so far. And again, this is unlocked via the security detail bundle that I'll link the video down below. So this essentially converts the AK-74, or excuse me, the AK-47 into an AK-103. But again, we're going to convert this using the conversion kits to an AK-74M. So let's go ahead and back out, and we'll go to our weapon. So again, I'm going to strip this down from base. So if you don't have this blueprint, check out the video down below, and you can also build this from scratch using any other blueprint as well. What we're going to start with is the muzzle. So we're going to go ahead and put a tactical suppressor on this weapon. This is going to assist with the sound suppression, the cons here being the ADS speed and the aim walking steadiness. So go ahead and put that on there. Now for the barrel, even though we already have the black polyamide handguard on this weapon for the AK-74M, we're going to go ahead and put a Skeletonized elite barrel, or the Midwest Industries M-Lock handguard. This is going to assist us with the pros being the damage at range and the bullet velocity, with the cons being the ADS speed. So I'm going to go ahead and select, I'm going to use my steel curtain blueprint design for this barrel just because it's a little newer and fresh looking versus the default. We'll go ahead and select that. Skip out on the laser. Now for the optic, again, we're going to westernize this weapon as much as possible. We're going to go ahead and select a holographic sight. So we're going to, for this one, the pros here being the precision sight picture, the cons being the ADS speed. So we're adding a little bit extra weight to that weapon. You can see it's attached here with dovetail mount on the left-hand side of the weapon, which gives us that top-mounted Picatinny over the dust cover to put the sight on. So go ahead and select that. We're going to use the base stock on this weapon just because we have that black polyamide base stock on the weapon here versus the wooden one, which is on the standard AK-47. We'll skip on the perk as well as also the rear grip. Now the ammunition is key here. We're going to go from the standard 7.62 by 39mm rounds, and we're actually going to go to the 5.45 by 39. That's what the AK-74 series of weapons fired. Now we don't want the base barrel. The magazines that I like the best for this are going to be the duly devoted or the Black Bear magazines for the 5.45 by 39. So I'm going to select the duly devoted. We're going to go ahead and slap that on. Now the pros here for the 5.45 rounds is going to be that it's going to allow us to have a faster fire rate, and the recoil control is also going to be better. The cons here being the damage as well as the range are going to take a hit because we're firing a smaller caliber weapon. So we'll go ahead and select that. Now the underbarrel, initially I went with the Ranger foregrip here, but I did see, I think Drifter did a video on it this week that actually proved that the Merc foregrip was better than the Ranger foregrip for vertical recoil control, and you also get some hip fire bonuses in there as well. So initially I was using the Ranger foregrip when testing this, but I switched over to the Merc foregrip. This is really going to be personal preference. I tested it myself, and it seems to be very close. It might be slightly better than the Ranger foregrip as far as vertical recoil control. But the Merc foregrip is going to assist us with recoil control and hip fire accuracy. The cons here being the aim walking movement speed and the aim down sight speed. So we'll go ahead and select the Merc foregrip. But again, really personal preference. You can also do a Ranger foregrip. Also, if you don't want to take any more hits to the ADS speed, you can go ahead and utilize the Commando foregrip, which is going to help with the recoil stabilization, or that's going to be your horizontal recoil, as well as the aim stability. And the only con here being the movement speed for the weapon. But again, we'll go ahead and do the Merc foregrip on this. Go ahead and back out. And here is our final design for the AK-74M. And I'll show the final design there on screen. The AK-74M, or the modernized AK-74. Now, just some nice things with this blueprint is you can see the indents in the buttstock here on the left and the right side, which are also in line with the AK-74 series, as well as the 100 series, I believe, for the 103. And then, obviously, if I were to take off the Skeletonized elite barrel, we would see the standard AK. Let's go ahead and take that off. You see the standard. Whoops, hang on. Let me unselect this also. And now you can see the standard AK-74 handguard there on the weapon with those side rails that are also on the weapon there as well. So that's the black polyamide barrel attachment for the handguard. Now again, we'll go ahead and put the Merc foregrip back on. I'm going to show you what this looks like when you build it from a base AK-47. So if I just backed out, we have the base AK-47 here with the same build, and you can see just the major cosmetic differences, mainly being the wooden buttstock as well as the pistol grip. The dovetail mount is different, and obviously the weapon itself just looks very old and beat up and rustic overall. So those are the major differences. You can build this from a couple different blueprints, obviously, or any base, but again, you won't have that all black buttstock, and this brings us in line with the AK-74M. The only changes here that are different from the AK-74M, so if I just deselect our optic really quick, we do have the rib dust cover. We have the stamped receiver on the weapon versus the milled receiver of the base AK-47. The only problem is we don't have a 90-degree gas block on this, what we do with the Revolution blueprint, so it retains the same gas block as the AK-47, unfortunately, but again, that's just the way the AKs are. We have the AK-12 pistol grip on the weapon. The 5.45 magazine that we would put on allowed us to have a more standard-looking AK-12 type magazine on there. And overall, really nice. And you see the rib dust cover again. So I'll go ahead and put our holographic sight back on. Now, just for reticles, you'll see in the video I'm running the Witch. I also recommend the downward curve is very nice also. Can be hard to see depending on the background, specifically where you're aiming. So when I get some of these other green ones, I'll be using those also. But this is our AK-74M, or the modernized AK-74. Let's go ahead now and jump into the gameplay. Check out the recoil control. So again, the AK-47, or in this case, the 74M, whether you're using the 7.62x39 or the 5.45x39 rounds, the vertical recoil is going to be the only thing you really need to worry about. The weapon itself is just going to go straight up no matter what caliber you're running with the recoil. So having a Merc or even the Ranger foregrip on there is going to help us control that recoil vertically. We don't really need to worry about any horizontal recoil. So we just want that vertical recoil control, which we can get with that Merc foregrip. So you can see the recoil pattern is just straight up. And then if I'm able to control it, you can see the recoil is actually mitigated very well with the Merc foregrip on here. I'm using for testing as well as in the gameplay you'll see. And you're able to control it pretty well. However, if you're getting out to distances in Warzone, definitely a little bit more difficult. I'll be doing a Warzone video specifically for this weapon in the future with maybe some different attachments on there. I have won a couple games with it, but very challenging weapon. And as we jump into the gameplay here, you'll see I'm using this on multiplayer and Realism Mosh Pit on St. Petrograd of all maps, is where I just ended up having a pretty decent game. Got a chopper gunner here. Definitely not playing the objective as much as I wanted to, just because I'm trying to highlight the weapon itself and how it handles. And you also need to play to the weapon's strength. It's not a very high dealing damage weapon overall. With 5.45 rounds on the AK-47, the damage at ranges, your chest is going to be 31 damage, the stomach 26, the limbs 26, and the head is 42. Obviously, we only have a 30-round magazine. The rate of fire on this is going to be 660 rounds per minute, so you actually have a very slow-firing weapon here for the type of caliber versus something like an M13, which fires at 900 rounds per minute, something like a Scar, which fires at 570, which is actually slower, but again, that's 7.62, so that's okay. Some of these other ones, the Grau 5.56 would be 730 rounds per minute. So it's really hard to compete with these faster firing weapons, even the M4 at 800 rounds or the Ram 7 at 860 rounds. So again, with the 5.5 magazine in this, you're going to fire at 660 rounds per minute. Your damage per second to the chest is going to be 372, and to the head is 504. So the damage profile on this, not the best, as well as the rate of fire on this. You'll see in the gameplay. I'm playing this to the strength just because by playing with this a lot, even though the 5.5 rounds did get a buff, I believe, at the very beginning of last season, or maybe it was the end of Season 1, the 5.5 rounds did get a damage at range buff, but again, the rate of fire is so slow. I feel the rate of fire should be faster for some reason, just because your time to ADS with this weapon, and then by the time you're shooting, there's a lot of times where my reticle is hovering over guys, whereas with any other weapon, they would be dead. But because of the slower rate of fire, even with the 5.5 rounds on the weapon, it's just not dealing. You're not getting the hits before they're able to beam you. And since a lot of people are running Growls, it can be a little frustrating. So just keep that in mind. You really want to play to the weapon's strength. The recoil is still a little bit too much, in my opinion, for the 5.5 rounds on this weapon. It should be a lot less, especially if we have a slow rate of fire and not the best damage on this weapon. And we only have the 30-round magazine, which makes it not too viable for Warzone either. But I think overall, the AK-47 with the 5.45 rounds or even the 7.62 just needs some love. It needs a better ADS speed on the weapon. It also needs probably a faster rate of fire or just a little bit more damage overall. Into some real weapon stats for the weapon. So again, the AK-74 was obviously first produced in 1947. So it was first created to replace the AKM, which was the more updated version of the AK-47. So the AK-74 has replaced the AKM. And again, those are chambered in 5.45 by 39 millimeter versus the AK-47, the AKM series of weapons, which was chambered in 7.62 by 39 millimeter. So, place of origin is the Soviet Union, came out of Russia. Now, it's been in service since 1947. This is actually still the main rifle of the Russian military, soon to be replaced by the AK-12. But again, they're still using the AK-74 series of weapons. It's been first saw action in 1979 in the Soviet-Afghan War is where it first saw action. The designer, again, is Mikhail Kalashnikov. And again, it was designed in 1974. And the AKM, which we're covering here today, was designed in 1991. And it would have been the main weapon for the Soviet Union. But since the Soviet Union collapsed, it did become the main battle weapon for the Russian Federation Army. Now, the manufacturer is the Kalashnikov concern. It was produced again in 1974 through 1991 for the 74 series, and the AK-74M was produced 1991 through present, which is soon to be phased out by the AK-12 series of weapons. So the mass of the AK-74M is 3.4 kilograms or 7.5 pounds. The length of the weapon for the AK-74 is going to be 37.1 inches. Length on the AK-74M as well as the AK-74 and the AKS-74 are all going to be 16.3 inches. When you cut down to the 74U series, it's going to be that 8.1 inch, or even some of the AK-74Ms. The cartridge again is 5.45 by 39 millimeter, and it is a gas-operated rotating bolt design. So the rate of fire in real life is 600 to 650 rounds per minute. So practical usage for this weapon, automatic fire would be 100 rounds per minute, or semi-auto would be 40 rounds per minute. The muzzle velocity on the AK-74M is going to be 800 to 900 meters per second, or 2,888 feet through 2,953 feet per second for the AK-74, AKS-74, as well as the AK-74M, which we're firing here today. Now, the effective firing range on the weapon is going to be 500 meters or 550 yards. The maximum firing range is going to be 3,150 meters or 3,440 yards. And again, the feed system is a 30-round magazine. But again, in real life, there's also a 45-round magazine as well as a 60-round casket magazine, which I would really hope they add to this game, because especially using this in Warzone, just having a 30-round magazine of the 5.45 is not too viable. And again, you're going to lose a lot of gunfights, especially in multiplayer. But here I have a pretty good game. I had pretty good games overall, but again, when you're going up against teams that are using Graus and M13s and M4s, especially the meta builds, it's going to be a little difficult. So you really need to play to the weapon's strengths, position yourself behind cover. I definitely am able to win a lot of gunfights up close, especially with the Merc foregrip. It does increase the hip-fire accuracy of the weapon, which definitely helps. And the fact that we're playing realism, you're able to make up for a lot of this just by hitting your headshots for the one-shot kill on the weapon. But that is all for the AK-74M. Again, in this build, we're using the Spetsnaz Elite barrel, which gives us the Midwest Industries M-Lock handguard on the weapon, which gives it a nice new modern look. A lot of different builds of the AK-74 unit to modern day have AKS, like for example, the AK-74U as well as the 74N and M series can use a bunch of modernized attachments such as from Zenico, Midwest Industries. So I'd really like to see stuff like that going forward. Stay tuned for the Season 4 and Beyond wish list I'm going to be making this weekend. So we'll go into some different blueprints. But mainly, I think overall my thoughts of the AK-47 and the AK-74 here are pretty underwhelming. I'm a little disappointed just with the weapon. I think it does need some buffs in a lot of areas. We either need a 45 or a 60-round casket mag for the 5.45. I think we definitely need a little bit of a rate of fire increase for the 5.45 round magazine. And we also need probably a little bit better ADS on the weapon, because since we're replacing the 7.62 with the 5.45, the rate of fire is still, or excuse me, the ADS speed is still very slow. And again, just the rate of fire should be increased a little bit more in my opinion. But I think that's all the more reason to actually replace this weapon and give us an actual AK-12, which would be the modernized version of the AK platform, which is replacing the AK-74M series in Russia right now. So the AK-74 will be replaced by the AK-12, and again, the AK-12 in real life has a little bit of a faster rate of fire, and again, it does have a counterbalance system, which helps to mitigate the recoil even more. So that's always been the problem with AKs, is they do have pretty heavy recoil, which I guess if we're staying true to real life is pretty well reflected in this game. So let me know down below what you guys think of the AK-74M. Again, this is just a modernized, the M meaning modernized, so the modernized version of the AK-74. And then this is firing 5.45 by 39mm rounds. So let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know if you were not able to get the security detail bundle. I did put out a tweet as well as a poll on this channel. So I did tweet out to Activision Infinity Ward and some people over there to let everyone know. So if that's still not up in shop, that came out on Tuesday. If you're still not seeing it in your shop, go ahead and comment down below again, so we can go ahead and see what's going on with that. It could be a bug, or it just could be for some reason your shop isn't refreshing correctly. Have to see. But if you still don't have the security detail bundle with this Warsaw blueprint, go ahead and comment down below and let me know. Other than that, I'm going to leave you guys with the gameplay, and let me know down below what you think of the AK-74M. Again, Twitter and other social media links are down below in the description, as well as my Discord. You guys can jump in there and join. We have a lot of good conversations in there about weapons, share a lot of pictures, go in depth to a lot of conversation about upcoming weapons. And again, you guys can share your ideas in there, as well as down in the comments below for different weapon conversions you want to see. Let me know what you want to see in Season 4 as far as weapons and blueprints. And until next time, this is Buffering Gaming with the AK-74M, utilizing the Midwest Industries M-Lock handguard. Until next time, Buffering Gaming, out.
We're on Charlie, stand by. Captain Charlie. Securing Bravo. We've lost A. We're losing this fight, get your head. We're taking Bravo. Hostiles at Charlie, gone.
Enemy at 10.
Not this time, you bastard!
Enemy holds all objectives.
Changing
Retake that
back.
point. We're on Bravo. Stand by. Hard day, lads. Clean yourselves up.